Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, and welcome back to this next video. And this is another video in the series of videos on the autosomal recessive disorder. In my previous videos, I've told you that when you talk about the mode of inheritance of genetic diseases, we usually classify them into five classes. We classify them under the autosomal dominant family, the autosomal recessive one, that would be the focus of this particular video, and we will be discussing another example of the autosomal recessive disorder. There are X-linked dominant genetic diseases, there are X-linked recessive genetic diseases, and then you have got the mitochondrial genetic diseases. So in this particular video, I want to focus on the Alkaptonuria, which is an important example of the autosomal recessive disorder. This Alkaptonuria is sometimes also known as the black urine disease, and you will come to know in a while why we call this as the black urine disease. So the first question is, what is Alkaptonuria? So alkaptonuria is an inherited metabolic disorder. What I mean by that is that there is some problem with the metabolism of something, and that metabolic disorder is leading to the condition of the alkaptonuria. So what happens in alkaptonuria, that there is deficiency of an enzyme which is known as the homogentisate 1,2 dioxygenase. For short, we would call that is the HGD. This is the homogentisate 1,2 dioxygenase. So there is a deficiency of this enzyme in the alkaptonuria. And when there is a deficiency of this enzyme, what happens is that the metabolism or the breakdown of two important amino acids, the tyrosine and the phenylalanine, that we get in the protein containing food, that get disturbed. So there is problem with the breaking down of the tyrosines and the phenylalanine, and we get these from the protein containing food. So when there is a problem with the breaking down of the tyrosine and the phenylalanine, so what happens is there is a buildup of a particular substance during this metabolism of the tyrosine and phenylalanine, and that is known as the homogentisic acid. For short, we would call it is the HGA. So simply, the deficiency of the HGD is going to the buildup of the HGA in the body, and that is going to cause the alkaptonuria in the patients. This is the structure of the phenylalanine. This one is the structure of the tyrosine. And if you can see, they are very much similar to each other. And the only difference that you can see over here is the presence of the hydroxyl group in the tyrosine. So they are going to be metabolized in the same pathway. So let us discuss about the pathway. What happens? When you talk about the metabolism of the phenylalanine and the tyrosine, so of course that is going to be a complex metabolic pathway. I'm not going into the detail of that because that is not the scope of this particular video. So during the metabolism of the phenylalanine and the tyrosine, you are going to get the 4-hydroxy phenyl pyroic acid, which then converted into the homogentisic acid, which is the acid that we just discussed. That particular homogentisic acid is going to convert into the mallyl acetoacetic acid, and this is utilized in the citric acid cycle for the energy production. This is what is normally happening. When there is deficiency of the enzyme, the homogentisate 1,2 dioxygenase, the homogentisic acid is not converted into the mallyl acetoacetic acid. Therefore, there is a buildup of this homogentisic acid in the body, and that is going to lead to the alkaptonuria. Now, what happens during the buildup of this homogentisic acid? How are you going to recognize this particular condition? So, in this particular condition, when there is the buildup of the homogentisic acid, the urine turn dark black. When that left standing, you can see over here, this is the normal urine, and this is the one where there is buildup of the homogentisic acid. So, when the urine of an alkaptonuria patient that is left standing, the homogentisic acid, that when exposed to the air, it polymerizes into a melanin like pigment, and that is going to give you the black urine. So this is one of the important symptoms and one of the important characteristics of the patient of the alkaptonuria, that the urine, when that is left standing to the ear, that can get converted into the black urine. Therefore, this is known as the black urine disease. So, what are the symptoms and the effects when the homogentisic acid that builds up in the body? So, what are the symptoms and the effects? So, in infants, so the first sign is often the dark colored urine that you just saw in the previous slide, especially after it is exposed to the ear. And more serious symptoms of the alkaptonuria, they don't show up until adulthood. Usually, they are shown after the age of the 30. And one of the important, you can say, symptom of the alkaptonuria is a particular condition which is known as the ochronosis. And during this ochronosis, when the HGA, when the acid that builds up in the connective tissue, like the cartilage and the tendons, causing them to turn bluish black. Let me give you some. Let me show you some of the images. This one is, say, for example, the air, and the buildup of the homogentisic acid is going to lead to these bluish black color over here. If you talk about the eye, you can see over here. And if you talk about the skin, that actually turns into like black color. So this is all because of the buildup of the homogentisic acid in the body, and that is going to lead to this particular condition. Another important symptom or another important effect of the alkaptonuria, that is the buildup of the kidney stones in the body. So this is an introduction, or this is the pathophysiology of the alkaptonuria, and we will continue the discussion on the alkaptonuria in the next video.